Today, Apple is everywhere. In your pocket, on your wrist, on your desk, in your ears, in your photos, your messages, your music, your payments, your attention. But before Apple became one of the most powerful companies on Earth, it almost died. Not slowly, not quietly. Almost completely. In the 1990s, Apple was confused. Too many products, too little focus, weak sales, a fading brand, and a future that looked smaller every year. But the most important part of this story is not that Apple survived. The important part is how. Because Apple did not come back by doing more. It came back by cutting. And then, it built an empire around one idea: control the experience.
Apple was not supposed to become weak. It had helped define the personal computer. It had made technology feel creative, different, human. But by the mid-1990s, that identity was fading. The company had too many machines, too many versions, too many confusing names, too many directions, and not enough clarity. To customers, Apple no longer felt simple. It felt complicated. To investors, Apple no longer felt inevitable. It felt fragile. To the industry, Apple no longer looked like the future. It looked like a company running out of time. And the dangerous thing about confusion is this. From the inside, it can look like strategy. More products can feel like more opportunity. More models can feel like more choice. More features can feel like more innovation. But sometimes, more is just noise. Apple was trying to be many things at once. A creative company, a computer company, a software company, a professional brand, a consumer brand, a premium brand, a survival brand. And every direction pulled the company further apart. The brand that once felt sharp became blurry. The company that once felt bold became defensive. And the future started to close in. Then came the return that changed everything. Not because it brought comfort, but because it brought discipline. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, he did not walk into a healthy company. He walked into a crisis. But Jobs saw something others missed. The problem was not just the products. The problem was the thinking behind the products. Apple had lost focus. And for Jobs, focus was not a slogan. It was a weapon. So he did something that sounds simple, but inside a collapsing company, it was brutal. He cut. He reduced complexity. He killed distractions. He forced the company to decide what mattered. Consumer, professional. Desktop, portable. A simple grid. A simple strategy. A company that had been drowning in options was forced to breathe again. This was not just product management. This was identity surgery. Jobs did not only cut products, he cut confusion. And that changed the energy inside Apple. Suddenly the question was not, what else can we make? The question became, what should exist? That difference mattered, because Apple was about to rebuild itself around a new kind of discipline. But focus alone does not create an empire. First, Apple had to make people feel something again.
In the late 1990s, most computers looked boring. Gray boxes, technical machines, cold, corporate, forgettable. They were tools, nothing more. But Apple needed something different. It needed emotion. It needed identity. It needed a signal. Then came the iMac. The iMac was not just a computer. It was a message. It said, Apple is alive. Apple is different. Apple still knows how to make technology feel human. It was colorful, simple, friendly, almost alive. It did not look like another office machine. It looked like the future sitting on your desk. And that was the strategy. Not just faster chips, not just better specs. Feeling, design, emotion. The iMac reminded people that Apple was not trying to be like everyone else. It was trying to make technology feel personal. This mattered because Apple's comeback was not only financial, it was emotional. People had to care again. The iMac made Apple feel creative again. It proved that design was not decoration. Design was strategy. But the iMac was only the first signal. The next move would take Apple out of the computer industry and put it into people's pockets.
Before the iPod, Apple was still mostly a computer company, but music became the bridge. A small device, a simple interface, a clean promise. Your music in your pocket. The iPod changed what Apple was, not because it was only a music player, but because it showed Apple could build something bigger than a device. This was the real genius. Apple was not just selling hardware, it was building a system. Hardware, software, content, experience. Everything worked together. The device was simple. The software made it useful. The store made it valuable. The experience made it addictive. And once people entered that system, leaving became harder. Not because it was forced, because it was convenient, beautiful, integrated. The iPod was not the final empire. It was the blueprint. This is where the Apple strategy became clearer. The product was not the whole business. The product was the door. Behind the door was the ecosystem. And ecosystems are powerful because they change the question. Customers no longer ask, should I buy one device? They begin to ask, why would I leave everything that already works together? But the iPod was still only the beginning. Apple had moved into the pocket. Next, it would move into the center of modern life. In 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone. But the iPhone did not just change phones. It changed Apple forever. Before the iPhone, phones were tools. They made calls, sent messages, held contacts, maybe played a few simple games. But after the iPhone, the phone became the center of modern life. Communication, music, internet, photos, apps, payments, work, entertainment, attention. Everything moved into one screen. And Apple controlled the experience from end to end. The device, the software, the store, the ecosystem. That was the real empire. Not just a phone, a gateway to everything. And the most powerful empires are not always built with walls. Sometimes they are built with convenience. The more Apple products worked together, the stronger the system became. The iPhone connected to the Mac. The iPod became part of the phone. The store became a platform. The apps became a marketplace. The services became habits. The habits became dependency. And the dependency became power. Apple was no longer just selling computers, or music players, or phones. Apple was selling an experience that followed people through their day. Morning, work, travel, messages, photos, music, payments, health, entertainment, memory, identity. This is why Apple's comeback is so important.
It was not a straight line. It was not luck. It was not one product. It was a sequence. First, survival, then focus, then design, then the pocket, then the screen, then the ecosystem, and finally, the empire.
The lesson of Apple is not simply make better products. That is too small. The deeper lesson is this: great companies are not built by adding endlessly. They are built by choosing. Choosing what matters. Choosing what to remove. Choosing what experience to control. Choosing what customers should feel. Apple almost died because it lost focus. It came back because it found focus again. And then it turned that focus into design. Design into emotion. Emotion into products. Products into an ecosystem. And the ecosystem into an empire. Sometimes the most powerful move in business is not building more. It is cutting until only the future remains. This was Silent Empires. Subscribe for more stories about power, technology, business, and the hidden strategies behind modern empires.